It's the waitingfornextyear.com podcast. Dave Sterling here with me in my podcast basement, Chris Clem.
What's up, man? I wasn't expecting you to call it a podcast basement like I'm trapped here against my will.
Well, we'll see how many episodes we get through tonight, and I just got to fill the coffers.
It's just a nice way of calling it a podcast dungeon.
No straps tonight. He's being cooperative. But Chris is in town in person, which is always very nice. Generally, we'd have Dylan with us.
I don't see him.
Yeah, I think he big shot at us.
I guess.
He's like, well, but here we are. We've got our coffees.
No thanks to Dylan.
No thanks to Dylan. There are currently some sous vide egg bites getting cold next to us where Dylan would supposed to be sitting.
I got two of all three kinds. I have a new Denver omelet one. They're pretty good.
You spent like $28.
Yeah.
So we have no plan tonight. Chris, you are in town because you're about to go to WrestleMania.
Correct.
I know there are some wrestling fans around the Waiting for Next Year universe.
Is that what you guys call it now? Like the WWE calls their fans the WWE universe?
The WFNY averse. So you've made a fairly long-standing tradition of going to WrestleMania, correct?
Correct.
Spawned from your former winnings, and now it's just your hard-earned dollars.
Correct. Yeah, it was my millionaire money at first, and then it was just like, hey, we're going out. All the drinks are on me. Here's my $200 bar tab. I don't care. And that's like, some people are like, $200 bar tab, that's nothing. But it was like a dive bar. Like $200 bar tab. It wasn't like we had bottle service.
It was not when WrestleMania was in New York City.
No, it was Atlanta. Like imagine going to Thursday's Lounge and spending $200. That's like the equivalent.
I saw that happen once because my friend Daniel and another gentleman, Timothy, decided to buy the entire bar a shot of Black House.
Really?
And I don't remember how many people were there. It required 4 or 5 full bottles of Black House. And
why Black House?
For some reason, that's what we liked to do shots of. It was, I don't know who.
Were they out of fire water?
Rumplements? This was definitely pre-Fireball era.
Yeah.
I don't know why we picked Black House. It was a dumb idea. See, my Thursday's tactic would always be spend the $9 or $11, depending on what they charged, on their finest gas station white Zinfandel. And they would pour the entire bottle into one of the big bucket cups.
Oh, yeah.
And then you would drink it as fast as you could, which for me, just because it's sweet-tasting liquid, I could drink it in like 5 minutes. And then you have like 20 minutes. This is pre-Uber, so you have like 20 minutes to arrange your ride before there's no more coherence involved. So you're like...
Before that wine hits you?
Yeah, exactly. So you drink it as fast as you can, and then you start scoping out who can take me home. And
we used to play, my friends from high school and I, we had an adult men's CYO team. And except for like one team, we were just much better than everybody else. So it didn't really matter if we were... cared or not for the games. So every Saturday night before a game, our whole team would go to Thursday's Lounge. And while I'm not endorsing drinking to excess,
yes,
there was one time where I was so hungover that I like had a coffee and I was just pounding coffee before the game started on the bench. Everybody was doing layup lines and stuff, and I just stood there with my XL Dunkin' Donuts.
Well,
coffee.
You're just the Matthew Dellavedova of the team, getting your brewed cup of coffee.
That was like my greatest athletic achievement, having a double-double in a men's rec league game while I was so hungover I could barely stand up.
And see, that's funny because I play co-ed soccer, but we are the ranking old-timers of our little co-ed league. So we'll play against teams of high schoolers and college students, but we're the old people who are like, hey, everybody chill out. I have to go to work on Monday. Don't go near my knees. I have a child to take care of and stuff like that. It's like, just, hey, no one wants to get in a fight with you, high school kid. Nobody does. But I will say this, that I'm just going to say her first name only, but Carol on our team is the perfect blend of, and this is not meant to be sexist in any way. You visualize someone, quote, running like a girl, like with her arms kind of up and daintily running around. That's how she kind of runs. But then she's the first person to go for the legs or pound somebody into the wall or just not put up with anybody's nonsense. And then she can run away kind of semi-innocently like a girl and just kind of giggle it off, and everyone's general sexism takes over, and they're like, oh, well, she couldn't have done that. There's no way she meant that. And the best part about that is she's a doctor.
Wow.
And so, like, if anybody gets mad at her, you're like, hey, she's a doctor.
You're dropping more clues to figure out our identity.
Any doctor's named Carol in the listening audience. But it's just funny that, like, there's these high school kids that are running around doing whatever, and there's a doctor on our team. Like, I know I'm old and I have a regular job, but it's not doctor. That seems just way more important than anybody else. I don't know how you feel about doctors.
It's very accomplished.
Did you have any doctors on your CYO team?
On my CYO team, no. That was just guys I went to high school with, and when we were like in our mid-20s.
Nobody at a Stowe became a doctor.
No, we went to Hoban.
Oh.
Some of those people became doctors, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot you went to Hoban.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not Stowe, sorry.
You're
funny.
From Stowe.
It's from Stowe. So every time
but you're one of those highfalutin. You're big time in me. Like Dylan's big time in us.
Yeah, you know what? No. We're going to pause that talk because every time it doesn't happen at other places around here because obviously they're further away from Stowe. But every time I would be like back at the funny stop and I'd say I'm from Stowe or they introduce me, people would be like, what year did you graduate? And I'll be like 2003. And they're like, oh, did you know this? And I'd be like, no, I didn't go to Stowe High School. I went to Hoban. And then be like, oh. Okay.
That's it? There was no...
Usually they just get mad at me. Like I think I'm better than them. I'm like, I don't. I didn't say I went to Walsh. I said I went to Hoban.
Well, it's very funny because I went to Woodridge, and my siblings, all of their kids go to Woodridge now.
Yeah.
Because they all live in the district. And then I moved out here. So this is a Nordonia Knights house. Never went there for a minute myself. I technically am a Woodridge Bulldog. Hey, but, my daughter's going to go here. This is a Knights house. Don't bring that Walsh nonsense in here.
I actually know the Woodridge High School fight song because when I was a little kid, my aunt and uncle worked there, and we used to go to their games on Fridays.
Nice. I could probably sing it because
I think I think it's maybe not their fight song, but it's pretty pathetic if I'm remembering the lyrics correctly.
Well, I think when I was in high school, we had an excellent band director who is your uncle.
Yeah.
And I think he wrote those lyrics, and he passed it off as he found those lyrics.
I'm going to send him a message later and ask.
I want to find out. Yeah. But
maybe you could put that on his Facebook. I'm sure he'll answer.
So you probably watched me in a marching band.
Oh yeah.
Thing. Yeah.
I
graduated in 99.
Yeah. So probably when you were like a freshman. Yeah.
There you go. He claimed that he found those lyrics.
Fight on, Woodridge High School.
Yeah.
We'll win if we try.
It was Let's Go Woodridge High School at the beginning. Fight on, Woodridge High School with maroon and white held high. Yeah, this is my favorite part. Our Bulldogs are out to get ya. Which is that was something I think he would say. That someone was out to get ya.
I wish we would. I had this. This is totally not sports related, but I have one. I have one living grandparent left, my Grandpa Worthing, and we went to this family dinner for when an 86-year-old man's like, let's have dinner. That means 1 p.m. apparently.
Yeah.
So we went to the good old Texas Roadhouse in Stowe, Ohio,
nice.
And I saw my aunt and uncle were there, and I would have loved to have talked about this then.
And see, that's where it took me a second when you said your aunt and uncle. I was like, oh, I didn't know you had this loose connection. And I 100% knew that you had this connection.
Yeah, because my aunt asked how I knew you and Dylan.
Yeah.
No, it's like, it's a long story. You just have to be a member of the WFNY universe to get it.
Yeah, the phrase "we'll win if we try" was not true. I think a lot of the size of the district, there was a lot of try, and there was not a lot of winning. I mean, there was one year that we had a good football. Now they win all the time.
Yeah?
Yeah, I see people at when I'm at the gym, I see people wearing Woodridge shirts all the time, and they're all 10-0, 10-0, and I'm like, that never happened when we were there. I guess the district has more kids in it now.
We got to get you a Nordonia Night shirt.
My wife got me one for Christmas, and I wore it to Christmas to just shove it in everybody's faces. So Denzel Ward, Nordonia Night, Denzel Ward. So I got that. He went to Ohio State University, Beach Nut for life.
There's Big Beach Nut, baby. Big Beach Nut Warriors, where you at? If the listeners don't know this, obviously, one time I met Dave's brother, and it was this guy who did not look like Dave, and he just came up to me and shook my hand. He's like, "Hey, man, what's up? I'm Dave Sterling's brother." He didn't say what his name was or anything. I still don't know.
It was John. That was my brother John.
So I was like, man, he knows the WFNY universe goes
definitely.
far.
It spreads. And we know our own when we see him out in the wild, and the wild being the funny stop, I expect.
That's where it was, yeah. If I've ever met anybody from your family, it was there.
Yeah, that's true. Should we talk, and I don't know if you care about this, but should we talk about the Funny Stop's Instagram advertising?
Yeah,
and I don't know how interested you people are in this, but
if you're not, you should follow them.
If you're not following is it just at Funny Stop?
Find out.
Yeah. You need to be following it, because if you were to, the people at Clickhole and the hard drive cannot come up with anything that is a parody that beats this advertising.
For sure. And it's Funny Stop Comedy Club with no spaces.
If you want to talk about adding logos over top of people, having misspelled words, incomplete dates, I think the HBO logo covered up the date.
Yeah. There's one there's like an app that just assembles these pictures together that he loves to do, and it just layers all these headshots on top of each other to the point where you can't tell who anybody is, even if they would. Like, it was when Jim Florentine was there, and that's like usually a really big weekend for them, and he was like buried under 4 people you've never heard of in your life.
You got to give precedence to the headliner especially when it's Florentine.
It's like, oh, that guy sells out more tickets than you're legally allowed to sit there. Let's just bury him at the bottom.
Yeah, but John Stossman's going to be there too, doing his 5 minutes. So apologies to anyone named John Stossman if you're a comedian.
That's nobody named that.
Okay,
that's
good.
A good one.
Good.
There's a lot of people I could have said, but as I've learned earlier this week, some of my friends are fine with my jokes, and some of them are not.
Well, I'm not fine with your April Fool's jokes, and I'm going to call you out to the carpet now, because what the listeners demand is Instagram talk, and talk from my personal Facebook, not even Facebook from the WFNY universe.
Well, I mean, I think everybody's down for a good Chagrin Falls movie reference.
So Chris decided he lives in Chicago currently, and as much as I like podcasting in the torture basement, he posted that he and his wife would be moving back to Ohio, and I was like, oh wow, it's April 1st, and it was offensive to me, because I actually got my hopes up for a minute, only because I genuinely like hanging out with Chris in person. So it was like not even, he can help me move or something like that. It wasn't, it was just pure, it'd be great to be able to see him more and stuff like that. And nope, April Fool's joke.
I felt bad because actually I didn't expect anybody to either A, I thought they wouldn't believe it, or B, they'd be like, who cares? But instead I got people post on that were like upset that I tricked them. I had people text me. My aunt said, this isn't funny, like very seriously.
See, like, I think it's like Twitter would be fine. If you would have done that on Twitter, no one would have replied to it, but the comment box is right there on Facebook that people are like, Oh, you just tricked me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have some words for you about, or a GIF about this.
One of the comics posted something like, "Why are you like this?" I was like, "I'm sorry." My friend texted me and he said he was so excited that I was moving back and that he already asked our mutual friend if I could be on their softball team.
Hey, you're a pretty heavy hitter, so
I'm so bad at softball.
Well, let's not even talk about softball because I know that also extends into the WFNY universe.
Oh,
that a
does
lot
it?
of people play softball. Scott, proprietor of the site mostly. So let's switch back to the wrestling because that's something I know Scott does like.
Okay.
So what does one do? I am not a huge wrestling person. I am aware that there is wrestling. I'm aware that
exists.
it's an ongoing thing with storylines and people and jumping. A lot of jumping happens.
There's a lot more jumping now than there used to be.
Yeah, I mean the 80s wrestlers they did not want to jump.
Yeah.
They were
When
mostly interested in cocaine, I think.
I think you're right. Cocaine and at that point would have been like horse steroids.
So you and I are planning to go to a Cavs game together, and you said last weekend, "Oh, I'm going to be in town," and then I thought you had gotten the dates mixed up about when we were going to the Cavs game, and you're like, "No, we're going to WrestleMania, and then there's something we're doing Thursday and Friday." So it's like a long event.
Yeah,
it's
so-
not just the Sunday night.
Well, WrestleMania is Sunday, but it's every like independent wrestling promotion, like they wise up the fact that now that they're doing like stadiums every year, New York they could probably sell it without needing people to travel in, but most of these places like Orlando, you're not getting a local crowd of like 80,000 people to show up.
80,000 80-year-olds
Yeah.
to show up.
So they started.
Is Jack Dempsey wrestling?
That'd be more like, I remember I saw Bruno Sammartino sell out the Garden. Remember when he took on Ivan Koloff and he used the claw on him? That was great.
Is Patrick Dempsey wrestling?
Is that was
The guy from Step by Step.
Oh
Not a real wrestler.
no, that's Patrick Duffy. Patrick Dempsey is
I
Mick
blew it.
Dreamy.
I blew it.
From Grey's
Yeah,
Anatomy.
wow, I blew that one.
Yeah.
Man.
Just lose reference points in the eyes of the WFNY universe.
Especially those Patrick Duffy fans.
Yeah, they're probably
the
like,
maddest.
Man, I love Dallas.
So yeah, the Code Man's going to be offended by that I misplaced the Duff Man.
He's not going to let you sleep in his van.
That's true. All right, enough of that. So yeah, you're saying they're trying to get people to travel into the venue.
So like WWE puts on their own stuff. So they got WrestleMania Sunday. On Saturday, they usually have, this year it's the Hall of Fame, where they induct people in their Hall of Fame. And then Friday's NXT, which is like their developmental brand, but it's not really developmental because it used to be like minor leagues, like AAA baseball.
You get called up.
Yeah. But now some of the guys that are in it are like better than some of the main ones, but they're
Gotcha.
just like trying to stagger their debuts so it like makes more of an impact. But then all these other companies started running shows there because they're like, oh, wow, all these wrestling fans.
There's going to be a bunch
here.
of wrestling fans who have nothing to do at 3 p.m. on Saturday.
Exactly. So now on Saturday, there's a New Japan ROH combination show at Madison Square Garden. And then there's tons of independent shows throughout the week starting today. Like there's a group called The Collective this year that's doing it's one of the local New York independent promotions, they called them, is getting all these other promotions from across the country to do shows there. So they like started last night, I believe, and whoever had the Tuesday slot is terrible because most people don't show up till like Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Because also WWE runs their Monday Night Raw and SmackDown after WrestleMania from the same city. So a lot of people come on Thursday and leave.
If they're going to
Wednesday
extend the
morning.
weekend, it's going to be into next week.
Yeah, not before. So there's a bunch of independent shows.
They already have like all the
promotions.
turnbuckles and stuff set up, and they're like, I'm not going to do that again. Now, let's just leave the ring set up
Pretty
for
much.
Monday and Tuesday.
So like WWE will now that they have NXT on Friday, they used to have NXT on Saturday, which is kind of going to screw them over because then they'd leave the ring set up for Monday and Tuesday because they'll do that at the arena. I think it's the Barclays Center. And then they'll come back on Monday and Tuesday. But this year, now that they flip-flopped them, they're going to have to like tear down the ring, and the set will be mostly the same, but then they have to put chairs for the Hall of Fame. But like the independent promotions are wising up and they're doing the same thing. So there's a local promotion in Cleveland called AIW, who a friend of mine, Steve Guy, is the ring announcer for. He's one of the people I go on these trips with. We have to be there tomorrow because he's got a ring announce, and their show's at 11 p.m. tomorrow night, and it's called the Slumber Party Massacre.
Are you gonna wear PJs for that, or
No, I should. I didn't bring any. But what I will wear is there's a guy wrestling, Scott Steiner, who used to be in WCW back in the day. He's like the big star they brought in, like the legend.
right?
And he's facing Swoggle, who is a little person wrestler.
Okay.
So I got my Scott Steiner shirt ready to go. Cheer him on.
Whatever happened to the All-American Ron Simmons?
Simmons?
He was my favorite WCW
Oh yeah,
wrestler.
he's still, he doesn't wrestle. He's done, but I mean he'll make appearances here and there.
And I liked Captain Planet Sting more than the Crow Sting.
Really?
Yeah, I liked.
You're dating yourself.
I know.
You know that guy was really popular. I liked him when he was slightly less popular.
I liked him before he got the good gimmick. Like I liked him on his first. He's all right.
He was like the Sergeant Pepper Sting is what people call him because he wore those like giant shoulder pad jackets.
But like, and then half painted face, but like blue.
Yeah, he would switch that up.
That's what I liked about the All-American Ron Simmons. He's like, red trunks, that's it.
And he had a headband though.
That's my thing. Yeah, I guess the head. But it's like, no, I don't really have a character. I'm going to dress like the guy who usually loses. Like, I'm going to dress like the guy who loses to the real talent that has a character.
Ron Simmons is in the College Football Hall of Fame. And when they say that as a stat, and they're like, Ron Simmons, College Football Hall of Famer, and then you're like, well, what happened to his NFL career?
Yeah. Well, and that explains the All-American, too. He was probably an All-American in college.
He was. He played for the Browns for a year, though.
Did he?
Yeah.
Man.
I think he might have got cut like the second game, but he was on the roster.
That's rough. Hey, but he turned his life around.
He's a Florida State guy.
Got into wrestling.
My friend really told me he really liked Brian Pillman when he was younger. He was from that era at WCW because he used to play for the Bengals and they were in the same division as the Browns. So
that's kind of a AFC North universe. Sorry, I just drank some coffee.
The AFC, like, people are going to be like, this isn't that funny. And I'm like trying my hardest not to spit out my drink.
I don't know why they keep breaking. There's nothing going on. Like, this is so boring.
Did these guys smoke pot before they went on? This is the same guy who watched Bruno Sammartino. Yeah. Apparently he's a big fan.
That guy shut it off and went to watch Step by Step.
Yeah, probably. He shut it off because he's going to go drive to Chagrin Falls Cinema and watch
for $1,
Gremlins
baby. For $1. Craig. We haven't talked about Craig yet.
Well, he Instagrammed after our last podcast together.
That's true. He did tag a little clip, didn't he?
Yeah, he said he likes when we talk about him.
Well, here we go. I did see Craig getting kind of reverse big shotted on Twitter the other night. He tried to respond to, not tried to, but he responded to something Ken Carmen had said, and then a bunch of people got mad at him for owning an insurance agency. Like, people were real mad about that. It was very funny that people were like, oh, look at this guy. He owns an insurance. First of all, they called it an insurance company, which is a bit of a magnitude different than an insurance agency. Yeah. but it's funny. Like,
it's a scalable difference.
Oh, they're just trying to just sell you a service and then they try to keep you from using it. And like a bunch of people just mad at the insurance industry overall. But he managed to keep his wits about him and not get too responded in the replies.
He can't deny that that's a company that he works for and is a big part of because it's the same name.
Yeah, it's true. He can't escape it. Not like Carol the doctor.
Exactly. Nobody knows who that is. Dr. Carol, somebody right now, doctor's offices all over. People would be like, is my Dr. Carol the one that takes people out during soccer games?
I just Googled Dr. Carol, and then it autofilled to Dr. Caroline Leaf. So I don't even know who that is.
Craig said on the wrestling topic that he likes being known as the Mr. McMahon of the WFNY universe.
He did.
So he's asking for it with that insurance company stuff. He's just living that rich life over there in Chagrin Falls.
He might as well be Erwin R. Shyster.
Exactly.
He's just a money grubbing insurance bigwig showing movies at his own private theater.
He is literally the $1 million man of Cleveland sports. We should get Craig to buy the Indians so they start breaking open the checkbook.
Yeah, it's about time. We're tired of these cheap Dolans.
Craig Lindell would pay Francisco Lindor's contract.
Yeah, he'd sign him right now to a 20-year deal worth $1 billion with his insurance money. He wouldn't be afraid to spend a little bit, you know.
Oh, wow. I see this tweet, which is also scintillating podcasting when you talk about people's tweets, but the first response was from Ken Carmen saying, "You own an insurance company, pot." Because he said, "I don't know about you, but I'm not going to tell sports fans how to spend their time or hard-earned dollars."
Yeah, he doesn't earn those dollars.
Yeah.
He takes them from the common man.
Yeah, he takes advantage of people's misery. He waits. Oh, I broke my leg. I can't work. That's more money for Craig.
Yep, he's like, ha, 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 ha.
Car accident, more money for Craig.
Gotcha.
No, somebody dies, even more money for Craig.
He loves it when people die.
He
told me that once.
What? He's a ghoul. Rest in peace to the real ghoul, Ron Swede. That's Craig now, and it's not because he's ripping off Ghoulardi. It's because he's a monster. Oh, I like running. I like running and people suffering.
Yeah. I like running, playing soccer on a co-ed team with Dr. Carroll, which he does. And also the misery that families endure when things go wrong in their life, because it means another infinity in my driveway.
Ooh. You just tore him open, Dave.
Yeah, we'll see if he listens.
Yeah. Did you make it this far?
Yeah, no, he didn't make it past the Patrick Duffy thing. He's like, if these guys don't know step by step, I'm done.
Well,
I'm done with these guys.
They probably don't even know Suzanne Sunburns.
Yeah, other than from the Thigh Maker.
Yeah.
The Mispronunciation Podcast, part of the WFNY universe.
The WFNY universe. Is the epicenter of the WFNY universe Rodeo Palojas?
It is, up in Middleburg Heights next to the abandoned rallies. That's where it's like WFNY is the artist in residence of Rodeo Palojas, but it's a blog that is the artist.
Gotcha.
So any number of people could be doing work there at any given time.
I understand.
I've never done a live podcast from there yet, just as so loud.
It's got to be a goal.
Yeah.
Sorry, nervous dog.
Yeah, exactly. That one was so well attended that we might overwhelm Rodeo Palojas.
It's true. The nervous. I don't know. This is not good podcasting, but there's a nervous dog in Akron now in the old Starbucks.
Yeah. There's like they set up. A friend who sometimes plays on our co-ed team. His name is Rob. Works there. He's also in a very successful band that tours every once in a while. So he kind of keeps this job as he has this coffee laboratory there.
Nice.
So he kind of figured out how to do their nitrogen cold brew and all this stuff. But like, we're like, well, what do you do? He's like, well, I just kind of go in there and mess around with coffee and then come up with drinks and stuff. I was like, oh.
He does it in the Stowe one or the...
No, in the he used to do it at the Stowe one.
Okay.
And then now he's just at the one in Fairlawn because he's got his little laboratory set up. Like he's Bunsen honeydew over there.
I'm going to wish I went now.
Well, you still can.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going out of business.
I mean, every time I try to go to the one in Beechwood, I just go to Mitchell's and get ice cream instead.
Really?
Because if I'm like, I could go for a sweet drink, or I could just get an ice cream cone.
Yeah.
Or a milkshake.
You could get coffee-flavored ice cream.
Yeah, exactly.
2 birds with one stone.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you were trying to direct this podcast in a certain direction like a good host.
I have no problem with that.
But I want to give props to WFNY for being ahead of the curve on eliminating Chief Wahoo from their banner image.
They were ahead of the curve, yes.
This is going to...
Well,
sorry.
The funny thing is because I think it was the version of Chief Wahoo of the old banner image was... Even racists agree that one was pretty terrible, Chief Wahoo.
It was the
where it was not a cartoon. It was a tan-skinned monstrosity of a logo.
It's the one where people cannot say, "Oh, that's not racist."
Right. Like even the racists are like, "All right, I see your point on that one."
It's like that doesn't bring back good childhood memories. But I hope that as many people are like happy that I just said that are also now mad at WFNY for getting rid of him.
I love how there were people who are mad about both equally.
Yeah.
Like, there are people still pissed off that they did it, and there are still people that are pissed off that they didn't do it, even though they did it.
Yeah.
Like,
They didn't do
everybody's
it
still
early
fired.
enough.
Yeah, everybody's still fired up about it. I tend to be in the camp of, why don't we just, this is supposed to be fun and stuff, why don't we just come up with something that has no chance of offending anybody? Like,
I'm kind of with that.
it's like, that's what I like. That's one of my favorite things about the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
Nobody even knows what it is. Like, even at the time, okay, Paul Brown, but then Paul Brown went and founded another team.
Yeah, and they kept the name.
Yeah, and they kept the name. They're like, well, let's call them the Modells, because that would have been terrible.
Or the Colliers.
Yeah. I would have been fine with the Retiglianos,
Yeah.
to be honest. But, yeah, that's one of my favorite things about the Browns is, yeah, we're not really anything.
Could you
What's your logo? Nothing.
the helmet?
Helmet?
The picture of our logoless helmet.
Yeah, exactly.
You would imagine if they changed their name every time they had a new coach and we had to like learn a new Browns name every year.
Man, because especially in the last few years.
Yeah. Sorry guys, I'm still calling them the Patines.
Yeah, exactly.
Pettins.
There'd be T-shirts around. I still call them the Shermers.
I still call them the Chud.
Yeah,
Keep
that's,
the Shermer. Like
yeah. Keep the Shermer.
Keep the Palmer. Runaway train. It's like that Chief Wahoo shirt that says like keep the chief and all those letters, but it's just an outline of Chris Palmer's face and it just says runaway train all filled in.
One of my favorite things about that is people who advocate, okay, well, let's switch to the crooked C.
Yeah.
Not the block C, the crooked C. Oh, so you're saying that Native Americans don't know about typefaces? That's, to me, that's even more offensive.
Yeah.
There's no way these Native Americans are going to figure out computers.
They can't read.
No, they could barely even make a C that's straight up and down.
I agree with that point 100%. Like that just is fine. But I've gotten arguments, like legit arguments with comedians, not like regular people, but I actually love the Block C and I always have. When I was a kid, I had a lamp because they had the Block C on their batting helmets, like I want to say in the 70s or whatever. And so my grandpa got me this lamp that was the Block C like batting helmet lamp. So I always saw that. And then when they brought it back as like their cap logo, I was like, oh, that's so cool. They used to do that. I mean, I know it's not one of their more iconic logos or anything, but it definitely has a historical basis.
Yeah.
So I always really liked it. And then people are like, the Block C sucks. It's so boring and stuff like that. Let's go back to that 70s like tomahawk typeface C thing. Like, I don't get that at all.
Yeah. I like the Block C okay. I wish there was a better secondary logo.
Yeah.
But I think the Block C beats the script I.
I agree with that. But I admit I'm also biased because my name is Chris Clem. So
you love a C.
I love a C.
Yeah.
A big solid C. And also I was a big fan of Public Enemy. And Chuck D used to wear Pittsburgh Pirates hats for Public Enemy with the big P.
Yeah.
So it's like when I'm wearing that C, it's like my own personal logo.
Yeah. My brother, John, had an S hat that he wore for a while for Sterling.
Nice.
It's just S. All right.
Was it just like a regular S or?
It was a green hat with a white S.
Was it like the S kids draw in their notebooks?
No, it was not that
Okay,
S.
okay.
It was just a fairly blocky S.
All right. I can, like you said, I respect that.
He said he found it at the thrift store, and he's like, oh, S.
I would never just wear a C hat, but because it's also my favorite team's hat, I'm not saying I might like it more.
Here's a question for you. This is just I want to get your temperature on this. I work at a place that's fairly industrial. Sometimes guys can get dirty, stuff like that. This guy claims to be a Red Sox fan.
Beach volleyball court.
Yeah. based on some relationship that he had with his father. His father was a Red Sox fan, blah, blah, blah. He's a Browns fan, Cavs fan, Red Sox fan. Bad enough as it is.
Yeah.
Now, the other day, I see him, and he's wearing a Cubs shirt for some reason. And I go, what the heck is that? And he was trying to rub it in with 2016. First of all, I'm like, listen, dude, I'm going to cry if you bring that up. I can't deal with that. I still can't deal with that. Please don't bring that up. I'm not going to bring it up now.
That's also what made my April Fool's post believable, because I have hated living there ever since that happened. And people know that.
Yeah. And so I'm like, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm just messing with you. I'm like, but why do you have that? He's like, oh, it's just a work shirt. I'm like, but why would you buy that? Like, even if the sole purpose of was to get dirty, I'm sure there was a cheaper shirt somewhere that didn't say that on it. A colleague at work went, "Oh, what, your swastika shirt in the wash?" Like, yeah. Oh, it's just a work shirt. Who cares what's on the front of it? It's offensive to me for you to wear a Cubs shirt.
Can I wear my Confederate flag with a hole cut out for my poncho to work?
It's like, what? Okay, so you're gonna wear a shirt that might get destroyed or get dirty, but can't you find something that's not offensive to Cleveland people?
I've been to Cubs games. I have no Cubs shirts.
Yeah.
I've been to White Sox games where they gave me shirts. I still don't like wearing those.
Yeah, you put them in your own T-shirt cannon and you fire them back out onto the field.
Exactly. And the White Sox suck. There's no animosity there.
Yeah, this is not the early 90s when wearing a White Sox hat was acceptable across the nation.
Yeah, because NWA made it popular.
Right. But yeah, that happened to me, and I just kind of went, why would you even own that? Because he's not even a Cubs fan. Like, I could see a guy being a jerk enough to be like, ha, I'm a Cubs fan, ha. No, he's a Red Sox fan.
He sounds like a front-running asshole, in my opinion. Bleep that if you want, Mr. Craig.
I know your aversion to swears on Twitter.
That guy can flock himself.
It's flocking ridiculous.
It totally is.
So baseball, we talked about it. You got your can you maybe find a way that the Indians can get a hit? Is that in your power?
Me personally?
Yeah, I need your answer on how they can get a hit.
I mean, personally, I can't do anything. I think we should just enjoy them while we can, and then, whatever happens, happens. They get a hit, they get a hit.
I am the number one advocate for running the enjoy it meme into the ground.
I'm number
I
two
love it.
that.
I think that is our weapon as fans, to just say anything that the Indians post on Twitter, we're going to say that we enjoy it, or some joke on that. And the fans currently, as it's fresh in our head, have embraced that. And you're like, oh, I'm going to go type something. And you're like, okay, the first 3 replies already say that. I don't need to do anything about it. But I'm saying in 6 months from now,
I'm thinking like 17 years from now, I'm going to still be saying it. Why couldn't we, without getting political, but why couldn't we, instead of having as the president, and switch the ownership of the Indians, and if we're going to have a billionaire's son who inherited the money, why couldn't we get the free spending guy owning the Indians?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And get the guy who's like very fiscally tight.
Why don't we put him in charge of extreme amounts of money that impact people?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Can
exactly.
they just swap it? I mean, Donald Trump would totally pay for Francisco Lindor, whatever.
He'd buy him a gold-plated toilet.
And then afterwards he'd be like, you guys love Francisco, don't you? We all love him.
And he'd be right, because we do. And see, that's the thing about Donald Trump, not to get political. He's the kind of guy that would be awesome if he was in charge of a sports team.
Exactly.
And I'm stealing someone's joke on Twitter. I don't remember who said it.
God.
But someone said, hey, guys, what if we just got Joe Biden an ice cream franchise and he had a good Instagram on that? Would that kind of satisfy your need for Joe Biden to be in your lives?
Yeah.
Same thing with we should have just given him an NFL team.
Oh, Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give him the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Oh, I mean,
the guy who owns them owns a soccer team, so he could go do that.
Full circle. His son is starting a wrestling promotion.
There you go.
AEW.
So now we just need a new universe, the Trump wrestling universe.
A Trump wrestling universe.
Well, wait a minute. Wasn't he involved with the
He's
WWE?
He's in the WWE Hall of Fame. He's our first president to ever be a WWE Hall of Famer. First ever WWE Hall of Famer to become the president. You decide what's the bigger honor.
Hey, yeah. Which one's harder to get into, man?
What are your qualifications? There's been 45 presidents. You know how many people are in the WWE Hall of Fame? Slightly more than that.
Just a few. But, though, you got to admit, the age limit on the president thing is the only reason. Like, if you were allowed to admit all ages to president, there would be more presidents.
Exactly.
But you can't.
You can't.
It's a numbers game.
It's self-limiting. Just ask me this, okay? Has there ever been, multiple time presidents? Yeah, but they have to be like consecutive terms.
Yep.
There's been one that like switched it in.
Scooped around.
After this year, there'll be 4 people who are 2-time WWE Hall of Famers. Beat that United States presidency.
Can't do it.
You can't. Can you say Stevie Ray from Harlem Heat? He was never president, but he's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Now, is it like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame where like you could be inducted for... Could like one of the British Bulldogs be inducted for being in the British Bulldogs and then later be inducted as a solo guy?
Okay, so Ric Flair got inducted as Ric Flair, and then later on he got inducted as a member of the Four Horsemen, making him the first ever 2-time WWE Hall of Famer.
2-timer, baby.
But this year, D-Generation X is going in, which is listed as Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Chyna, Road Dogg, Badass Billy Gunn, and X-Pac. Shawn Michaels is already a WWE Hall of Famer, so now he's going to be 2-time.
Dang.
The Hart Foundation is getting in, which in this induction is Bret Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Bret Hart's already in, so now he's going to be a 2-time Hall of Famer. Harlem Heat is getting inducted this year, and Booker T is already a WWE Hall of Famer. Now he's going to be a 2-time Hall of Famer. So yeah, it is just like that.
That's just like that.
It is. Eric Clapton is in like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame like 4 times or something ridiculous.
I wonder
Those
if
songs
there
still hold up.
Are there I wonder if there's going to be any like major like I'm probably there's some player manager double duty going on in the Baseball Hall of Fame maybe.
Yeah, there is well, I don't know cuz I was thinking Bob Uecker's in the Hall of Fame but not as a player.
Right.
He's in as an announcer. But he played, if that counts.
Right. Well, there have been plenty of players who became managers, but how many of those were actually good enough to be Hall of Fame of both?
That's true. Well, that's an interesting sports theory anyways, that most great players are generally terrible coaches.
Yeah. Or, in terms of Isaiah Thomas, executives.
Oh, yeah. Or
Magic Johnson.
Or Michael Jordan.
Yeah. And so that's why...
Or solidly mediocre like Larry Bird, but I'm not sure if he's actually a bad executive or just the Pacers don't spend money. Could be that.
They're the Cleveland Indians of the NBA.
They pretty much are. They're like, hey, get us 2 white guys who can put in the starting lineup and we'll sell enough tickets to make a profit.
We'll fill this field house. Call it a field house. It's more relatable.
Yep.
Just thinking back to Larry Bird's cameo in Celtic Pride, which I forced you to watch.
You did force me to watch, but I do remember that cameo where he's just like, what are you guys doing here?
Lolly. He made loyalty. The joke I made on the podcast was that he made loyalty a 1-syllable word.
You're right. He did.
That was a good joke, too. That was solid.
It was good. It was very solid. You guys should go check that out in the archives.
That's tangential. That's tangential to the WFNY universe.
You're right. It's like a side project.
Yeah.
But that made me think of when Gordon Hayward was a free agent, and I was like, there's only 3 teams in the NBA that are going to give this dude what he needs, and it's either stay in Utah,
yep,
go to the Pacers,
Jazz, Pacers, Celtics.
Yep, they all need that white boy superstar.
Yep.
That's why when it was like
all 3 of them have good barbers.
Yep.
That can do that the hard part.
Oh yeah, get the little edge in there.
Yep.
It was like that's why when those rumors were like, oh, the Pacers are going to trade like Paul George and they're going to get Eric Bledsoe and like 2 other guys for Kevin Love, and it'd be like, yeah, because they need that white guy to sell tickets.
Mm-hmm. It's all that's a very interesting theory in sports of teams like that aren't trying to contend for a championship but are profitable.
Yeah.
And how that works in terms of keeping leagues afloat and stuff like that. The NBA, it's tough right now because no teams are vying for championships except for the Golden State Warriors, so the balance is a little offset. But in the NFL, like I guess the Bengals have been famous for cutting as many corners as they can, being as cheap as they can, and I guess some would accuse the Browns of doing that during their rebuilding, that they kept a low cap number. But theirs, I feel like, was stockpiling it for later. The Bengals were just like, no, we don't want to pay anybody.
No, yeah, there's multiple teams like that. Like the Chargers, they only moved because they were just basically given so much money. They just were like, I guess we'll move to L.A. Nobody wants us there, but if you're going to pay us this much.
It's interesting how the league puts up with it. And that's where I feel like this is a way too deep of a dive of subject. But the promotion and relegation system in soccer around the world would be beneficial there. Now, I'm not saying that as a Browns fan because the Browns would have been in like the 4th division by now.
Yeah.
But it is something that, okay, well, you can be crappy this year, but if you're in the bottom 3, you're going down into the lower league and you're losing a bunch of money. So
I feel like there's not enough teams because everything, I know it's just like a cultural difference, but it's like, all right, in the soccer league, yeah, you got like, I'm not the most well-versed in soccer, so feel free to correct me, but you have like the Premier League and you have like, but you have all these leagues all over with different countries and stuff, right?
There's a bigger talent pool for soccer across the globe, for sure.
So it's like, would you do that with American sports? Like the only one I could really think would work would be the NBA, and right now, like the Cavs are bad, but I mean, just from when Kevin Love came back, they were like immediately 20 times better.
Well, I think it could work in baseball if the players weren't affiliated down the line.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because the development of prospects is big in international soccer, and that's how a lot of those teams stay afloat, is they have good youth academies, they develop players, they use the players for a while, and then they'll sell them to a bigger club, and that's what will fund their team for the next 10 years, is selling one good player away, which, again, are you going for a championship? What does that championship get you money-wise? The big prize, like in English soccer, is if you're in the Premier League, you get a 1/20th of the TV deal, which is a gigantic amount of money. So the championship, which is the second league, there's always a huge push at the top of that, because if you can be one of the 3 teams that goes up, you instantly get this giant check handed to you, and you can do whatever you want. So the team I like, Aston Villa, tried to do that, and they kind of...
Is that the one that...
Randy Lerner used to own.
I was going to say, is that why you started liking them?
It is.
Okay.
But so the owner that was in place before the current owner was a Chinese businessman who essentially thought, well, if I kind of mortgaged the future and kind of went all in and hoping that they would win this playoff game and make it to the Premier League, and then they lost the playoff game, and he was forced to sell the club to pay a giant tax bill that he had with the UK, and he was kind of budgeting everything on, oh, well, I'm going to get this big check when we go up, and then they didn't go up, and it was a problem for him. But they're doing much better now.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
I was going to say the problem with baseball is that even when the Yankees are bad, which they're bad a lot, or even when the Red Sox are bad, you know they're going to spend a gigantic sum of money.
Yeah.
So baseball is not like there's some teams that there's like 15 teams that are like completely out of it before the season even starts.
But you do have to say, even with no salary cap, baseball produces more different champions.
Yeah, but that's
than the
just
salary cap sports.
That's the nature of the game itself, though.
Yeah,
it's more prone to fluke and things happening. There's
just
more
getting
variables.
hot at the right time. And
like in the NBA, like I said, like Kevin Love's not one of 10 best players in the league, but he's good enough that he completely changes the way a team performs on a court.
Yeah.
A guy like LeBron, make your jokes what you want about the Lakers. Honestly, that's like the worst constructed roster ever. And if you listen to my podcast from last summer, I think I specifically said that. But whatever. You get a guy like that, it totally changed around. Like, look at how having like the best rotation has like helped the Indians. Like, they still got swept in the first round last year.
Right. Yeah. Turns out you need all sorts of different aspects of your team, not just, literally, especially with Clevenger ascending, Trevor Bauer ascending, you have 3 aces in Carrasco, Kluber, and Bauer. Clevenger is a rising star.
Yeah.
And then you get to, I don't even know who the 5th starter would be.
Bieber, this so far.
Oh, yeah.
He hasn't, they skipped his start, but
he's an up-and-comer as well, who's kind of proved himself last year. But if you can't hit the goddamn ball, it doesn't matter. Exactly.
And it's like my aunt posted an old picture from the 90s on Facebook, and it was a different aunt than one I mentioned before. It mentioned the 4 aces of Cleveland. And I was like, who are the 4 aces of Cleveland in 95? And it was like, do you want to guess? Or
Jack McDowell, Oral Hershiser, Dennis Martinez. Was Charles Nagy?
Yeah.
See, I never knew if Charles Nagy was Cleveland famous or real famous.
Well, if you look back on his stats, he's actually a very big case to be made for him being underrated, because he played in the steroid era and with the huge numbers, and like he put up pretty solid numbers. He like got average between like 15, 17 wins and like a sub 3 earned run average.
Pretty good especially for that era.
Yeah, and it was just like, he's not good enough is what we all would say.
Yeah. He's like, well, yeah, but he's been here a while. We didn't get him from somewhere else.
And exactly.
Like every other player on our team.
And this sounds like damning with faint praise, but he would be the 5th starter on this roster.
I know.
But, I mean, it's like they were good enough, like, for how good the hitting was. Like,
well, I remember, I think it was just 95, that they came back in so many games that when you could hit like that, you just are never out of it.
Yeah.
And
having super dominant starters doesn't mean as much when your bullpen is bad.
Yeah.
Or you can't hit, because like you're losing a lot of 2-1 games. Like today they got Kluber had a bad game or whatever, and Carrasco had a bad game the other day. But it's like every other game has been so close, and it's just one guy doesn't get that runner over and they lose, like the end.
Yeah. Didn't get the bunt down.
It's sad to think like their strategy has still been the same, even though they have much better pitching and they're really good and stuff like that. But their strategy in like 2004 was like, hey, Marty Cordova's been out of the league for either injuries or drug use or some other issue that we have no idea why. Let's sign him and bring him in. Oh, and then he gets hot and has a good year. He gets a contract with the Twins and then disappears off the face of the earth again. And it's like this year, it's like, hey, Hanley Ramirez basically like gained so much weight he could no longer play the infield, and then he just stopped hitting. Like, let's sign him and hope he turns it around.
That's a name, right?
Like that's their strategy. Like it worked with Napoli. He had a great year, but then he faded at the end. But it's like they get all these guys who are like talented guys that for one reason or another just nobody's giving them money, and they're like, one of these guys has to work.
Yeah, exactly.
You get 3 months of Mark Reynolds tearing it up, hitting 20 home runs, and then getting like 3 the rest of the season. They ship him off.
Well, Leonis Martin last year goes in, hits home runs in consecutive games, like 3 or 4 of his first games, then, thank the Lord, didn't die.
Yeah. It's always an inspirational story when the season starts. And they're like, Tom Hamilton's talking. He goes, well, you know, I can't do a Tom Hamilton impression. So I'm not going to try because he's got such a distinct voice. Yeah. He goes, it's Rosie, it's great to see the reaction Leonis Martinez get, because a lot of people thought he was going to be dead. Like,
he's not wrong. And let us all thank the Lord. Well,
like he literally mentioned that he basically died on the operating table.
Someone said that,
or illness, whatever.
That the illness table. Someone said that he came to his locker and there was the card that Cleveland fans had signed for him at his locker, and he got very emotional. And I want to know, didn't you give it to him while he was in the hospital?
Yeah.
Did you save it?
Did they hide it and they brought it back?
Like, or yeah, maybe they like took it out of his room after he got out, and they're like, oh well, let's hide it. But if they didn't give it to him while he was in the hospital, that offends me as a fan.
Well, not only that, but if they put it in his locker, not that many people signed it.
Right. That's not a very big
not
card.
a big card.
No. Maybe they just got a snippet of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that was one of the backup cards. Like they put some in the hospital and then they just save some throughout the year to cheer him up.
Yeah.
It's like the opposite of Major League. Sometimes he just opens his locker and there's a card hanging there.
And he's happy.
Yeah, he's happy. He goes in the Francona's office. He's like, I can't believe you would give me another card. I love you so much.
Give me a hug. Let's ride your scooter.
And then he says, who's this a picture of back here?
In the old days, I would say that of the Cleveland sports coaches / managers, and I think the era I did it was Tyronn Lue and Hugh Jackson and Terry Francona.
Yeah.
And it was who would you give a high five to, who would you hug, and who would you, I don't even remember.
Oh, that's super easy.
But now, I think I want to hug Freddie Kitchens as much as I want to hug Terry Francona.
Yeah,
I don't know if Larry Drew's much of a hugger.
Yeah, the first question was like, yeah, high five Ty Lue, hug Francona, and then punch Hugh Jackson in the face.
Yeah.
But now it'd be like,
I got a hug handshake at this point.
Yeah,
I'd shake Larry Drew's hand.
I'd give Larry Drew a solid handshake.
Yeah. I might put up my left hand on his arm.
Yeah.
During.
He doesn't want you to high five. He doesn't want you to hug him. But he's done a solid enough job in a thankless role.
Yeah. No, he's done an excellent job.
For a guy whose face naturally looks upset, he's done a great job.
Yeah, that's why the hug's not going to work with him. Because then you've just made him mad.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess you could just give Francona and Kitchens a hug at the same time. Would that count?
I bet they'd both be into it, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'd both be like, yeah, group hug, get over here.
Two guys who will go out of their way to never have to wear like an actual button-up shirt. And in Francona's case, it's a uniform shirt, but he still doesn't want to wear it.
No, windbreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they say, was it when he was on the Red Sox he got in trouble the one game because he didn't have the uniform shirt on underneath? He just had like a cutoff hoodie or whatever?
I still love that is a thing in baseball, is that they make the manager wear the uniform.
I would love if the NBA, you just see like coaches wearing shorts and a sleeveless shirt. I mean, they'd never take the warm-ups off, but it'd be like when Larry Brown was coaching the 76ers and he's wearing the same uniform as Allen Iverson.
Exactly. Well, and then in football, I remember probably 10 years ago now, someone wanted to wear a suit as a tribute to their father who was a coach and wore a suit. And they're like, no, you have to wear Reebok stuff. It's like, well, I just want to wear a suit. Nope.
Well, couldn't you wear a suit and just put that like giant Reebok jacket on over top of it? It would look stupid, but
yeah, it's just weird that.
It's like
NBA suit, NFL promotional items, MLB the same uniform as all the players.
Yeah.
Hockey suit, back to suit.
Yeah, hockey. I think they even have more leeway in that because I'm not a big hockey fan, but I swear one time there was like a guy wearing a denim jacket. Like,
well, I'm sure at most hockey games there's a guy wearing a denim jacket.
Like he just looked like he was like his son was playing on the team or something. And also, that was like the UFC when they had that Reebok deal. They made everybody wear like the Reebok gear. Leagues want you to.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It was just funny where the guy's like, no, I want to do a touching tribute to my father and wear the suit like he did. Nope.
No.
I think they did do one game where they did do that, but they like allowed him to, and then the other coach did too. But
they should have just like brushed it off and be like, the free market has decided that we can't let you do that.
Yeah.
Because Reebok's giving us $3 billion.
Yeah. If you want to give me that check, you can wear whatever the hell you want. You want to be like you own an insurance company or something, like a Craig Lindell.
Yeah.
You give me that check, you can wear whatever you want.
Yeah. You own an insurance company, and then you're going to tell fans what to think?
Yeah, I don't think so. Pot?
You think Craig got nervous and he's like, is he saying that I smoke marijuana?
I don't want this to come out. I have a reputation to uphold. Now I'm going to have to cancel Reefer Madness live at the Chagrin Cinemas for $1.
This could harm my reputation in the community.
What will they say at the Blossom Time run? There's nothing to come up with after that.
Well, no, you just referenced the biggest event possible.
Yeah, I know. I went there.
I was like, no 80s movie can compare to that.
I've never strangely identified with this scene in The Breakfast Club.
Is this what it's like to be a reefer head?
Well, I've never smoked a marijuana cigarette, but perhaps I'll try.
Which end do I like?
All right, well, I think we've gone far enough. We've come back around on Mr. Craig.
Yeah.
There's no way he's listening still.
No.
But thank you for listening. Chris, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate the coffee.
I am very happy to be here. You know, I love podcasting with you and being in your podcast basement all the time. I'm really excited to go to the Cavs game with you and your friends, Dylan and your other friend, who's great on social media.
He is great on social media.
But I just realized that Craig is like, I like being the Mr. McMahon of this. And since you asked me about wrestling, and Vince McMahon's character is like an absolute maniac who's over the top. And like our impressions we just did of Craig are like the most restrained person in the world.
But in his mind, he's the maniac. Him telling someone to go flock themselves is him, I really let the mask slip.
Ooh, did you see how I tied it in with the Baltimore Ravens? Go flock yourself.
Well, that just about does it. Thank you for listening. This has been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.